I hate introductions, don't you? But it seems like they're always necessary. So here goes. I'm Ashley. I'm a wife, mom, pastor, and missionary's kid, which is double trouble if you didn't know. And if you're in this space, we're here to learn about who God is, who we are in Him, and how to do faith in the real, meaning the real messy. All right, everyone. Hi, welcome to this episode of Chats with Ash. I have a really, really special guest because this is one of my besties, one of the girls in my inner circle, one of the few. And I don't know if I should, I feel like it's an honor that you're there, but I don't know if you would say that. You're probably like, how did I get here and how do I get out?
Absolutely not. No way. I don't want out. I'm not sure how I got there, but I don't want out. I'm in it.
Well, we're so different.
Yeah.
And so as a way of introducing yourself, tell them about you. Like, what's your personality?
Yeah, so I've actually, over the last couple months, I've been really wanting to figure out my personality. A couple years ago, I asked my husband, who am I? Who do you see me as? What do I look like on the outside? Because, you know what's on the inside. You know how you feel, how you want to come off, how you want to be portrayed to the world. But, are you getting there? Am I getting there? It was the question that I've been asking myself. So I've really been diving into who I am, and the places where I need to improve, right? So I would say that I am a very task-oriented person.
Yeah.
Very much emotions seem messy to me, right? So I don't really dwell a lot on the emotion part. I focus more on what needs done, and getting things done. I like to-do lists, and I hate those things, right? I like plans, and I plan everything, and everything has a plan and structure, and I really love rules and like to kind of live beside the rules. I don't like to push boundaries and that kind of thing. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. Just the kind of personality I have. I love deeply, but a lot of people don't know that because they just think Bridgett just gets things done. That's who she is. But I do care very deeply, and I'm very. I try to be absolutely intentional about everything, and that's my desire is to let those around me know, to know that they're loved, and. I'm a Christian, so that drives a lot of the things that I do in the world. That's the splash I want to make, is just to show other people Jesus. So that's who I want to be.
Yeah. I think I admire that so much about you, Bridgett, because God has used you to really push me towards Him, and you're one of those few friends that you find in life that you tell me what I need to hear a lot.
Yeah.
But I value that in you, even though sometimes it's hard to take it.
Right.
You do it very well.
Thank you. I try to be compassionate. I've had people say you're pushy, and you said you pushed me toward God, and that's a good push, I guess.
It's a good one.
But yeah, and I tend to say the hard things, and I've been working on saying the hard things in a compassionate way, and I think that's how Jesus lived. He said the hard things, but He said it because He loved those around Him. And I hope and that's what I try to get to people, is to let them know I love you and I want to make you better. That's kind of like my life motto: make it better. That's what I'm driving for.
Well, I see in our relationship, I almost feel sorry for you. I feel like I'm getting the best end of the deal. Meanwhile, Justin and I, her husband, we're basically the same person. And we're emotion driven. We are dramatic slightly. Right. So I feel bad for you a lot of times.
Yeah, you guys like that relationship.
Yeah,
you're all about the relationship, and I'm more about the task and how to get it done. So I listen to. I like self-improvement, and I like knowledge. I just am on a journey to just gain as much knowledge as possible. So I listened to a podcast about you and Justin's personality, and the podcast said that you go to bed thinking about relationships and wake up thinking about relationships.
We dream about relationships. I
Right,
mean, it's everything.
in the in-between. Yeah.
Yes.
And I thought, that is exhausting.
No, and then the flip side of that is you're so task oriented, and I'm thinking
Yeah.
that's exhausting.
Right,
How do
right.
you plan like that?
Yeah.
But because of our personality difference, would you say that you are? I mean, you are relational, but it's in a different form.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I've realized over the course of time, often like in my younger years, I felt like relationships were so much work, and so hard for me, and a lot of people can't take that raw truth, right? You thrive on that. You want to improve yourself, and I think that's what kind of makes us work is a lot of people can't take like the intensity that is Bridgett, right? But in recent years, I realized like relationship, while hard for me, is so important. So important. I mean, the Bible says like iron sharpens iron, and one person can sharpen another, and I've found that to be true, especially with our relationship. When where I challenge you on some things, there are other things that you challenge me on, like loving big, and loving full out without that reservation. Like, are you going to hurt me? Like, you go for it, and that's taught me a lot. So relationships are so important. So
I have to touch on something while we're here, because Bridgett and I live, 6.5 hours apart?
Yeah.
So most of our communication is through the Marco Polo app, so we video constantly these messages. And Bridgett, you've said some hard things to me through those messages.
I'm sorry for everything I said.
No, it's, I'm welcoming it. But it's so funny because when I am not a confrontational person, and when it's time for me to say something hard, I will leave the polo and stress and worry, and then I'm sending her more polos going, are you okay? Did I hurt your feelings? And you're like, well, I'm fine.
And that's the difference between the two of us, because we've talked in the past about how you're a verbal processor, and my husband Justin, he's a verbal processor. He needs to talk things out, whereas my personality is I have to figure things out. So in my mind, I'm going over this stuff. So you say hard things, and you know they're hard things. I know they're hard things to me, and then I go away and I'm like, I need to figure this out. I need to take the information she gave me and the other information that I have, and I need to figure out the best steps to get this done. And so I'm over here like processing and thinking about it, and you're like sending like 1,000 polos.
Checking my phone. Has she poloed? No, she hasn't poloed. She must be mad.
I'm so sorry. Are you okay? I know that was hard. So it's like over and over. I'm like, hey, I'm just thinking over here. Like, you're fine.
Good.
That's our relationship in a
nutshell. I mean, I'm the sprinkles and glitter, and
I'm the other thing.
You're the reason we get things done.
Right.
I mean, even this trip, I'm visiting your home right now, and you're the what are we doing today? And Justin and I are like, we'll figure it out as we go along. You're going, no, we need a plan. It's good.
It is good, and I've learned, like, there are times when I need to just sit back and just let it roll. Like, it isn't a necessity to have a plan all day, every day. And so, like, on this trip, there's been days I'm like, okay, they don't have a plan. They're not worried about it. We're just hanging out at the farm. So, okay, let's not do a plan. And it's fine. Everything, no one's died. Everything's fine.
But we have needed you, because we would probably have spent most of the day going, we'll figure it out. And really not getting anything done had it not been for our task person. Well, I wanted you to come on here because you have this story about us that somehow you managed to draw application out of only you can do that way. So I really want you to come on here and share this, because now that they kind of know who you are, and they should know who I am by now.
Right.
You have a really neat story about relationship and the importance.
Yeah. So you and me, we get together a couple times a year. So a few years ago, we found a place that's halfway between the two of us, and it's a campground, and our families both camp, so it seemed like the perfect idea, and it was great. We got to enjoy each other's company and all of that. But between the two of us, we have five boys. Okay. 5 boys. Yeah, I know.
They're calm, quiet.
Right. Yeah. Everyone out there just went,
absolutely.
Oh, I know.
So cute.
Yeah. Well, it's what God's given us, so we're dealing with it. And our kids were there, our husbands were there, and this place that we like to camp, it has a beach at the lake, and there are buoys, like it's a swimming beach, and there are buoys way out in the distance. So the two of us are like, we need some girl time. Well, there was a lot of boy going on right now, so we need some girl time. So we decided we're going to swim out to those buoys. We're sure it's deep out there, and we need to
escape.
Get away. So we left the kids with the guys, and we said, kids, stay here. We're going to go out there where it's deep. And we were convinced that that was the plan. That's where we were going to go. So we started swimming, and it was so funny because Ashley's like, I don't want to touch. You touch. You see if you can touch.
What's under that?
And I'm just this country kid, so I'm like, I don't care. I don't care to touch the mud or the sand or whatever's down there. I don't mind. So
sea monster.
Yeah. So we go a little distance, and we stop, and Ashley says, "Can you touch?" And I try, and I'm like, "Yeah, I can still touch." And so we swim a little farther, and Ashley says, "Can you touch?" I check, and yes, I can touch. So we do this like multiple times, going out through the lake to the buoys as our destination. And so progressively, every time I can touch. And so we get all the way out to the buoys, and I and Ashley both are like, okay, we've made it. We're not going to be able to touch. And she says, "Can you touch?" And I'm like, yeah, I can still touch.
And you're 5'4", I'm 5'7".
Right.
So it's
so it's still like you can swim, but it's still like shallow enough to touch. And we're like, what is going on? But when I was thinking about relationships and how valuable Ashley's relationship is to me, and how valuable like the people in my circle are, and I actually sent a polo to Ashley just to tell her like, you're so important to me, and friendship is so important, and I truly believe that we sharpen each other. And I retold her that story, and I said that story demonstrates to me the importance of relationships, because with me looking at those buoys, probably if Ashley hadn't been there, I would have never ventured to those buoys. Not that I was necessarily afraid, but it just was a place that I didn't feel that I needed to go. It was too deep for me. It was too far away from me, and I would not have went there if it had not been for having somebody by my side. And then as we were traveling, when she was feeling uneasy, when she was feeling uncertain, I was able to say, you know what, this is something I don't care to do. Like, I can get this. So I would try to touch, and then I could give her the reassurance, you know what, we're okay here. This is fine. And so we could travel together. And it just showed me that with friendship, with relationships, together we can go farther than we could have ever went by ourselves. We can go to that place that we think is too scary, that we think is too deep, that we think is too unknown. We can travel there together because we can help each other. And God has blessed us with our unique personalities in order to kind of come alongside each other and encourage each other in those areas that we can't quite make it on our own. He's given us each other and giving us him as our safety device in order to reach those places that he's called us to go, those places. And the thing is, like, once we got there, it was like serene, right?
It was. We were not about to tell them we could touch.
Yeah, we did not report back. Like,
floating.
Yeah, that was rough out there. We probably need to stay away from the buoys.
It was so great.
Boy moms, only boy moms
absolutely.
understand that.
You know, I love that our differences really point us to God, how unique he is. he could have made us all the same, right? But he has all these different personality types that he's created, all these different quirks that he's given us.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes we tend to try to find our people.
Yeah.
And when we think about that, I think we often look at them as who's like me.
Right.
Instead of looking for who's different than I am.
Yeah.
But they say opposites attract, and it's true.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I'm so thankful for your differences because, I mean, this past year in particular, Bridge, I feel like I have been growing a lot. Not that I'm anywhere close to arriving, but I know a lot of that is God working through you because you're that sharpening. You're that person that's willing to say, hey, how's your relationship with God going right now? Because you just said this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that. And, you challenge me in my marriage and my relationships and my homeschooling, everything.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. And inversely, you challenge me. And I think that's important. I mean, that scripture that says iron sharpens iron, I think is so important because it truly does. And it's not like gold sharpens iron. It's iron sharpens iron. Like each of us have those specific skills that are sharp.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. That are strong and durable and able to knock off the edges that need knocked off.
Yeah.
So I think that is so true. And that we can continue to get stronger together. But as long as we're moving together, we're both getting stronger. Yeah.
And that's the key, is moving together. It's easy to isolate yourself.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even someone like me who's more relational, it's scary to get to this point where you let other people in. You're talking about ironing, sharpening iron, but that doesn't happen on its own.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't just happen. So for those listening, let's talk about how do you start to make this happen? I mean, how do we become? It's not like we've arrived, but I feel like our relationship is unique in the sense that, I mean, when we met, it was a process.
Oh, yeah.
Getting to this point.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's not like we ever sat down and said, hey, we're going to be ironed together.
We're going to be besties, right? No.
Let's do this thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like over time, like it does take a period of time, right? And it takes two people that are willing to say, I'm going to trust. I'm going to put away the baggage that I've had, the hurt that I've had from other relationships, the hurt that I've had from other friendships that I've been betrayed. I'm going to choose to put that aside, and I'm going to choose to trust.
Yeah.
To be present, and to work at this thing.
It's kind of funny that you say that because I think our friendship really started growing more at a time in my life where I had lost a very close friend. So I was definitely feeling that hurt and that betrayal and rejection. Yeah. And at that crossroads of, I don't know if I want to do this again.
Yeah.
Because is it really worth it?
Right.
And I remember I had come to visit you guys, and we were at this park, and we were talking about this loss in my life.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Definitely.
And me realizing as I was sharing with you, that in and of itself was a step. I was choosing to trust you.
Right.
With those emotions and those feelings and
and
that hurt. And then you proved to be trustworthy.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's key as well, is being willing to trust, but also being that person that's being trusted in, and realize like this is a sacred thing. This person is opening up, this person. And in that particular situation, I remember you cried, and I thought she felt safe enough to cry with me. So I think that's really, really key. It goes both ways.
Yes.
And you have to be willing to do that. And I think like there are so many, and I think back, there are so many opportunities that I had for friendship, and I just wasn't willing to take it. I just wasn't willing to be that party that received it. And for whatever reason, it was a missed opportunity. But learned a lot along the way, right? So I definitely think that's important. The other thing that I think is important is just being open with each other, and saying the hard things, and not having your heart on your sleeve. being someone who can listen to something, even a hard thing, and be like, you know what, instead of getting upset, instead of just shutting down, like actually listening to this and being like, there's some validity here. And I think a lot of times we tend to just get our feelings hurt and walk away from relationships when there could be some real truth or meat or growth that could happen there, but just not being at the right place.
But I think God has given you such discernment. You seem to know, with me at least, when it's time to give it, and you give it gently, and you give it in portions. I think you know that I can't handle it all full force,
right.
But that's proven to be really valuable to me, and I'm thankful for that.
Yeah. Friendship is crazy. I mean, it's definitely a learning process. I mean,
it's trusting someone with your mess.
Yeah.
You know, really.
Yeah.
I remember a polo I left you recently. This is how we communicate all the time. I don't know if I've mentioned it. We use this Marco Polo app and leave each other hundreds of messages every week. It's ridiculous. But I remember sharing some stuff with you and saying in the polo, this is hard for me to say. Because there's this element of, are they going to think less of me? Because her husband's part of this polo, bless his heart.
Right. Poor guy.
and yet I have to trust that you're a safe place.
Right.
And like we've already said, you've proven to be that safe place.
Yeah.
But it's not like you say, okay, I trust you and now we've arrived. It's a continual process.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, and we've had those moments when it was like misunderstanding or things that like I expected one way and you expected another. Like we've had those moments for sure. And we've had to step back and be like, whoa, okay, there's some apologies that need to happen. There's some things that need to be said, and there's still some healing that needs to happen. Like it's messy. Life is messy.
It is.
And we could have very well been like, okay, then we just throw in the towel. We're done with that. But the value that's came from those things as well is, I mean, it's like refining fire, right?
Yes.
It's just every trial that you go through, every life thing that happens, you just learn from it and are stronger for it. So definitely a fun ride.
It is. Thinking about our first, big misunderstanding, it was so funny because I remember telling my husband, I feel like I'm in a dating relationship and we had our first fight and I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah.
But it was so good because I also remember telling him, I just learned so much more about her.
Right.
And it was a good, like, okay, now I know what I need to do differently.
Yeah.
It's just so great. It's part of growing together.
Yeah,
and
for
like
sure.
you say, it gets messy sometimes. But,
Yeah.
But I think that's the part of the beauty of relationship is recognizing there's this element of saying to the other person, I choose you.
Right.
And we all want to belong.
Yeah.
We want to be chosen.
Yeah.
And we have that through Christ, but I'm so thankful he's given us other people that do that same thing. That's a reflection of him. Really, I've never thought about it that way, but it is.
Yeah.
When we choose somebody else.
Yeah. And we choose somebody else, but we also choose to go through the things.
Yes. Sit in the hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, again, I'm sitting here like, poor Bridgett, you had more hard to deal with from this end than this drama queen over here.
No.
Well, I mean, if nothing else, I've shed plenty of tears with you. You've seen lots of that. This is why it's good that we're 6.5 hours apart, though, because you don't get the snot on your shoulder.
Right. Just on the phone.
Right. All over the screen. I think the hardest thing for me with our relationship is the distance.
Yeah.
But it also, for me, it's just like, you guys are so worth it. That making the time, making a way to make the relationship work.
Yeah.
And knowing that this place is just temporary. We're going to have forever to be together.
Right.
So I'm excited.
Yeah. The distance is very hard, especially, I mean, as we learn about each other, I know, like, there are times when I'm like, she just needs a hug, and I can't do that, and I can't reach out there. So, but it does refine, like, our communication skills because I have to find a way to communicate to you that you are heard and you are known, and the same way with you. You communicate that in different ways. So it's definitely strengthened my relationship game, right?
Yeah, and you've done great. There have been so many polos, Bridget, where you've even said, you've just said, I see you right now. I'm so sorry you're hurting. I see it,
Yeah.
and just having someone acknowledge that with you.
Right.
Because it's one thing to say that out loud, I'm hurt.
Yeah.
But for someone to just say, I'm choosing to sit there with you in the hurt. I see it. I read this book once, and I wish for the life of me, I don't know what book it was, who the author was,
Yeah.
but he was talking about in American culture, we're not comfortable with things like grief or the hard places.
Yeah.
And he said we need to be willing to get in the coffin with people. And that's such
Wow.
a strong image to me.
Yeah.
And that's what I think about with people that you're really doing life with. You get in the coffin. You get in the smelly, scary, cold places.
Yeah.
And you sit there.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
We were talking a few days ago about Job and his friends coming to see him, and Job and his friends, his friends get a really bad rap, right?
They
And
do.
Most pastors just hate on them because they said all the wrong things at all the wrong times and that kind of thing. But I was sharing with you, I really resonate with them, not in saying the wrong thing, because I hope that I don't get there very often, but they came to Job and they sat with him for 7 days. They sat in Job's mourning, in his grief, in his loss. They sat there with him, and to me, that's friendship. That's showing up when everything is crashing. That's friendship. That's true friendship. And I just when they finally opened their mouth, you would have thought after 7 days they could have thought of something positive and encouraging to say. They didn't really get it together, but truly, I think when I read that, I think, wow, they showed up, they were there in the hard,
Yes.
and they could have very easily just stayed home. And I think that a lot of people miss out on opportunities to come alongside somebody because they just stay home. Metaphorically,
Yes.
it's too hard, and they don't want to do the hard thing.
It takes so much work.
It does, but it's worth it.
It is.
Right?
And there is so much joy between us, I think, with
Right?
relationships,
Yeah, absolutely.
and having fun. When something good happens, you are like the first person. I cannot wait to tell her this.
Yeah.
And to share in that joy. And so it's been a wild ride.
Yeah.
They say there are friendships that last for a season. There are some that last for life. And I certainly hope ours lasts as long as God gives us here.
For sure.
But like I said, we have eternity too. So
Yeah.
that works.
For sure.
In the meantime, I'll be planning my next trip to your house.
Right.
This is the one area of my life I'm willing to plan. I'm going to see Bridget and stay as long as possible.
That's only because I have to have a plan.
Man, girl, thank you so much for being here today and for sharing your heart with us.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for being
value.
a terrific friend.
Right back at you, Bridget.
Yeah.
All right, I love you. Guys, thank
you
you so
too.
much for joining. I hope that this was helpful to you. If you're struggling with a relationship,
Yeah.
I think my encouragement to you would just be it's worth reaching out.
Yeah.
And trusting, and then praying that God develops in us a character that is trustworthy.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah. All right. Thanks for being here. See you next time, y'all.